Hey, financially savvy travelers, welcome back to another episode of the Thought Card podcast. Saying kids grow up fast is truly an understatement. It feels like yesterday that my mom and I packed our car for our first road trip with baby K to the Adirondacks, New York, when baby K was 6 months old. You can listen to episode 112 for my best tips for road tripping with a baby. But back then I was truly full of anxiety. I wasn't quite sure what to expect road tripping with a baby as a new mom, but I've learned so much since then. Since then, we have road tripped across the country. We've flown internationally and have a dozen or so local getaways under our belt. Baby K is well traveled, way more traveled than when I was a little kid. And so I've picked up a lot of tips and tricks to make traveling with toddlers in particular a lot easier. Less tears from baby and also mama. I'm not going to lie though, traveling with toddlers can be really stressful, full of tantrums and big emotions and endless running around. But I believe it's so worth it. Welcome to the Thought Card, a podcast about travel and money, where planning, saving, and creativity leads to affording travel, building wealth, and paying off debt. We are the financially savvy travelers. Now, there's a big debate out there about traveling with your little kids. Should you travel with your babies, your toddlers, your children? I'm going to say that at this age, toddlers, they're walking, they're talking, and they have strong wills. Traveling has become one of our favorite teaching tools, allowing baby K to explore, discover new places, and follow his curiosity out there in the world. It's also our special bonding time too, because there are a lot of firsts for him and us too, whether we're on a multi-generational trip with my extended family or just the two of us, like on our first camping trip. If you follow the podcast, you know what I'm talking about. I never went camping before until now, and I went on our first camping trip with baby K, and I'll have to talk to you guys about it in another episode because it was awesome and incredible. So I'm going to say that there are a lot of amazing benefits to traveling with your toddlers. And one of the things that people always say is that, well, they're not going to remember it, but you will. And hopefully you'll be able to document and capture all these memories for them so that they can see later on, whether it's photos, videos, scrapbooks, whatever the case may be. I love traveling with my toddler. It's an amazing opportunity for us to bond, and there are a lot of first time experiences that we have together. So, with all that being said, we travel a lot with our toddler, and I've picked up quite a few tips that I want to share with you. I always say to spend the extra money for convenience and comfort. Do not chance it. So that means if you're flying, pick the seat of your choice, spend the money. Spend the money to book a direct flight versus a connecting flight because there's just so much more into logistics when you are doing multiple connections or just one connection. Get elevator access so you do not have to climb hundreds of steps with a heavy stroller at the Eiffel Tower. That was me. I was the mom, or climbing over 300 steps up the Eiffel Tower because I did not know better. So if you can afford it, spend the extra money for convenience and comfort. The little savings is not worth it. It's not worth your sanity, at least in my opinion. That also leads to planning ahead. Are the activities that you have planned baby friendly? And what do you need to pack? What are the logistics? How are you going to get there? How are you going to maneuver with your baby? Is there a pool or no pool? Should you bring the swim trunks or not the swim trunks? The more you can think ahead, the more prepared you will be. And intentionally planning out activities specifically for them helps a lot. So we're always looking at parks at our destinations that we're at, beaches, kids museums, that sort of thing. A lot of things can be baby friendly, but doesn't necessarily mean that they were intentional for babies or for young kids. So whenever possible, we do break up our activities and have things specifically for them, for the baby. If you can, bring your parents with you, which is their grandparents, bring them. Have an extra set of hands and eyes available to help you. It is so helpful. This is one of the biggest travel hacks that I cannot spread enough knowledge about and share about and scream to the rooftops about because I love traveling with my mom or my mother-in-law because they're so helpful. And all of the things we talked about before of like the benefits of traveling with a toddler, like they get to experience that as well, right? They get to have their first with their grandchild. They get to see the world through their eyes and they get to relax. So let's talk about relaxing for a second because when you are traveling with the grandparents, this also gives you a break because now you can say, "Hey, mom, hey, dad, I really just need to take a 10-minute nap. Can you just watch Baby K for a minute?" And it just works out really, really well when you have that extra set of hands and eyes available to help you. So, whenever possible, I think bringing the grandparents is undoubtedly a hack that everyone should know about. Okay. Speaking up, I think, is one of the things that I am learning a lot about. And this is what I mean by speaking up. You are your baby's best advocate and voice in the world. You are their voice. All right. So if you need to sit down on the bus, ask for that seat. If you need to park closer to the establishment so that you don't have to be trudging in the hot sun with your baby, ask the attendant if you can park closer. Are there any open seats on the plane? Ask the airline staff if you can sit with the open seat next to you. You have to speak up. You are their voice. You are their best advocate. And the most that people are going to say is no. And that's okay if they do. But if you do not ask, you do not get. People will gawk and stare at you. Okay. People stare. People are nasty sometimes. Like they are rude, like just the way they look at you, you and your baby, you trying to wrangle your baby screaming at the top of their lungs. They will stare. They will make you feel uncomfortable and they will, even if it's not verbally, they will find a way to express their annoyance with you. And to that, I say, although it can be hard sometimes, don't pay them any mind because babies are humans too, and they deserve the right to be with you and your family. Not only they deserve to be there, but how are they going to live in society and learn how to operate out in public if you never bring them out in public, right? So you have to practice bringing them to restaurants, bringing them to places, and teaching them those skills you need to practice. I always also say, trust me, I don't want to hear my baby screaming more than you do. You don't want to hear them screaming. I don't want to hear them screaming either. Okay. I don't. I really wish that my child was not screaming at the top of their lungs at the library. Okay. I really do. And I'm trying my best to calm him down and get us to the next point. But here we are. All right. So have tough skin. Those dirty looks, don't let them faze you. Okay. Another tip I want to share with you is that babies get their own travel bag or suitcase. They actually have a lot of stuff. There are a lot of things associated and that belong to your baby. So pack their own bag. Do not try to squeeze their stuff in your stuff because your stuff will not fit. Okay. Packing their own bag ensures that you have all their belongings and that you can keep all of their things organized. Like I said, there's just so many pieces, so many moving parts when it comes to bringing things along with you on your trip for your baby. So just give them their own space. I have a packing tip for you. Roll your clothes for more space. So, like I mentioned, like when we went to Disney, I think Baby K had like 27 outfits, right? Like 2 outfits a day, some out outfits, some swimming outfits. Like he had a lot of outfits. It was a lot. It was over 20. And we were able to fit in a very small carry on by rolling our clothes. That was so much more space effective. Tame your frustrations. Okay. I know it's easier said than done, but do what you must to recenter yourself. Ask your partner, ask your parent, the grandparent for help. Give in sometimes to their desires for a little bit, right? Sometimes we're like, no, this is absolutely not. This is not good for you. We're not doing this. But sometimes I give in to make them happy. And at the end of the day, I'm smiling because I gave in a little bit, right? I'm not saying to do this all the time, but sometimes giving in to what they want just helps them to feel better about the whole situation. Because the last thing you want to do is blow up and make a frustrating situation even worse. So I encourage you to be patient with yourself and your kids, expecting things to not go smoothly all the time, right? I know that things aren't going to always go well. And I feel like if I had the expectation that they would always be 100% good and great, that would be super foolish of me. So I expect things may not go as planned. And sometimes the unexpected is half the fun. Okay. We're going to laugh about it later, I hope. But really, really try your best to tame that frustration. I know it can be hard sometimes, but it's one of those skills that we learn as parents. Okay. Let's talk about toys for a second because I have two different toy tips here. So, whenever possible, bring new toys with you on your adventure because this is going to capture their attention. They're going to be intrigued. They're going to be so excited to open up the wrapper and see this new thing. It's going to keep their interest a lot longer. And I have an example for you because at Disney, baby K was obsessed with a bubble blower that grandma got him and we brought it everywhere. He wanted that bubble blower at every, like, even in the restaurants. We didn't use the blower, but he wanted it a lot. Restaurants, walking around, like he wanted to have that blower in his hand. And I love this because not only it kept him interested, but other kids were able to join the fun. As we were strolling him around his stroller, the bubbles were just spreading good cheer all over the park. And to me, I feel like bringing a new toy with you or buying a new toy at the destination can do a lot of wonders for your child. I also do say to bring familiar toys too. So bring things that they love, whether that's stuffed animals, blankets, anything that makes them feel secure and safe. Bring that with you. And also keep up the routines that you have for them. When you're traveling, sure, there are a lot of disruptions to your day to day. So you may not be able to always accommodate nap time and meals and things like that. But if you can keep to your routine, keep to that, it really does help in the long run. So that familiarity, is that even a word? Okay, I'm going to pause here for a second because I need to tell y'all a story, right? This story, I actually wanted to bring this up to you guys a few weeks ago, but I totally forgot. So we're pausing the episode for story time. I recently got a bad review because I say itinerary, right? Which is not how you pronounce itinerary, but that's what I do. So someone gave me a 1-star review for complaining that I said itinerary. And I said it multiple times within the first 5 minutes of the episode. And they could not listen to the podcast because of how annoying my itinerary sounded. Let me tell y'all, okay, I am not an English major, okay? If you read my blog, there may be missing commas, okay? Hopefully there's always periods, but missing commas. And I say things funny sometimes. And I hope that is part of the quirkiness that I bring to the table, and something unique that I bring to the travel space is how I speak and my quirkiness and the way I pronunciate things. So thank you all for listening to the podcast and sticking with me and not dinging me for saying words incorrectly. So I don't know if familiarity is the right way to say it, but it was said, okay? Bring your familiar toys with you and keep those nap routines and meal times set. All right. Oh my gosh. I love you guys so much. Thanks again for listening. Okay. Moving on. Bring your stroller. There are times when my husband and I are getting us all unpacked out the car and he asks me, should I bring the stroller? And I'm always like, yes, please, please, don't even ask. Just take it out. Just always bring your stroller. Number one, if it rains or if there's like any like inclement weather, it just shields them from the elements. It's great for the impromptu nap, and it just helps them feel contained and safe when they aren't behaving so well, right? When we're navigating crowded places, instead of us having to walk with him or hold his hand, or when we're navigating crowded and narrow spaces, we don't have to worry about holding his hand or carrying him in our arms and us getting tired from that. We can just put him comfortably in his stroller. Okay. It's also, strollers are great for storing the essentials on the go. So I always say bring a stroller. It's super important to have a stroller, though, that is travel friendly, that's mobile, that you can maneuver with one hand. Okay. Things that are easy, compact, that kind of thing. In the episode description, I will have a link to the stroller that I love and use. We've used it throughout all of our travels, multiple travels, international, domestic, all of that. So you can get the link and grab that if you are interested. With that being said, I kind of want to circle back to that familiarity. There's that word again. Not sure if I'm using it correctly, but there we go. Also, avoid extremes, meaning avoid extreme hungers and also tiredness. And it's hard to do sometimes when you're traveling because there's so much stimulation. And like if your child is anything like baby K, he wants to be in the action at all times, right? He may be so tired, it doesn't matter. He will hold on because he wants to be part, he wants to see, he wants to join in. Okay. And what I found is that when we have these longer trips and his whole schedule is super disrupted, it may be really hard for him to eat the types of food he likes to typically eat. So when we went to Disney, baby K only ate French fries. Okay. He was on a French fries diet. Okay. No ketchup, no nothing, no seasoning, just straight a little dab of salt on that bad boy. Okay. That's all he wanted was French fries. At that point, he needed nourishment. We gave in a little bit. We gave in a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. Okay. But it is what it is. We're trying to avoid them being super hungry and super tired, but that's not always the case. But do your best. Do your best to accommodate them and be mindful that a hungry and tired baby and cranky baby will often lead to just an unpleasant experience all around. Okay. Now, last but not least, I really think it's important to over prepare than under prepare. And this is just my personal opinion. I really try to prepare as much as I can. So I take the time in a calm and methodical way to pack the baby diaper well in advance. So we are not rushing last minute. We have our diapers, our wipes, our change of clothes, snacks, first aid, a first aid kit always in there because, of course, you just never know. But I found a lot of comfort in preparation because assuming that you can go out to your local Target or grocery store to get supplies is not always a good assumption. There are lots of times, whether you're on a road trip, you can't stop, or there's nothing nearby, or things are closed, right? Whether it's like something's closed, whether it's late or the weekday that you're visiting, nothing's open, which happens a lot, I just prefer not to chance it. So I try to prepare as much as possible. Am I always going to be ready for anything? I mean, things happen, but I do like to have all of my essentials on hand. And that preparation, I feel like we've talked about it actually several times in this conversation because it shows up a lot. Okay. Even the second tip that we talked about, preparing activities and wondering if it's baby friendly or not, like that's all preparation. And that's logistical preparation, but just preparing in terms of the essentials that you need also is super important. Okay. Now, with all that being said, I do have more. I'm adding more. items to this list as I'm learning them. So I do encourage you to check out the accompanying blog post because there will be lots more, right? I have a 2-year-old, but he's growing, I'm learning. So definitely head over to the blog post in the episode description because there will be a lot more as I learn them. But one of the things that I'm really excited to implement in our travel planning is to read travel stories to prepare my son for what's coming up ahead. So this can look like reading airplane books, reading train books, reading road trip books, depending on where we're going and the type of traveling that we're doing. And guess what? I have an entire blog post dedicated to the best travel books for children, which you can find in the episode description as well. I have quite a bit of travel books for baby K, but I've never read them specifically right before a trip to kind of set expectations and build excitement around it. But I'm really excited to try that. I'm really excited to try, and there are lots of great reads there in that list. So definitely check it out. All right. So if you're listening to this episode on Spotify released a new feature where you can finally leave a comment on your favorite podcast. So please leave a comment. Let me know if you travel with your toddlers, if you love it, if you prefer to wait when they get a little older. Let me know how you feel about this. I cannot wait to chat with you more. I look forward to reading all of your thoughts, and I will see you in the next episode.